I want to focus for the moment on what's obviously imminent catastrophe in Gaza. And so I want to focus on that history. Before I get to the history, I want to situate Gaza, the basic facts. Every time you hear the word Gaza, these are the facts that should leap to the forefront of your mind. Number one, 70% of the population of Gaza consists of refugees and descendants of refugees from the 1948 war, in the course of which Israel was created and about 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from the state of Israel. Roughly 290,000 of those 750,000 ended up in Gaza. So the population of Gaza, which now stands at approximately 2.1 million people, 70% of that population are refugees or descendants of refugees. Fact number two, whenever you hear the word Gaza, remember, 1/2 of the population of Gaza consists of children. So whenever you hear these diabolical plans being cooked up by Israel, bear in mind the objects of those plans are 1 million or more children. Fact number three, Gaza is among the most densely populated places on God's earth. It's more densely populated than Tokyo.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Gaza, believe it or not, its dimensions are 5 miles by 25 miles. What does that mean to your average listener? Well, for me, it means that Gaza's width is the circumference of the seashore where I jog every morning. It's 5 miles. Its length is shorter than a marathon. A marathon is 26.2 miles. The whole length of Gaza is 25 miles. That's Gaza. Does it really surprise you? Is it really a shock that a couple of days ago, the people of Gaza, most of whom were born in that concentration camp, they were born into it. Does it really shock you that they would do something desperate to break free of that concentration camp? And who dare criticize whatever tactics they employ? I don't know what I would do if I had been born into a concentration camp and spent 20 years of my life there. Who are the young people who join Hamas? If they were given an opportunity in life, if they were given a chance, if they were able to breathe, I don't know if they would have joined Hamas. Most of these young people are at the point where they're willing to just sacrifice their life because the situation is so hopeless. They have no other options. They have no other choices. And this is the question that we must constantly ask ourselves. What were their options? Periodically, Israel launches these brutal criminal assaults on Gaza. Medical personnel were targeted, journalists were targeted, people with disabilities were targeted. Is it really a shock that it deteriorated and ultimately failed in its goals, in its objectives, to end that brutal, inhuman blockade of Gaza?
I honestly cannot believe that CNN actually allowed this interview to air. But hey, credit where credit is due. But more importantly, I think it can help all of us understand the tragic Israeli-Palestinian situation a little bit better.
But let me ask you, if that is the analogy you wish to draw, what Hamas is doing is they're targeting Israeli civilians. Is that not a classic terror? Isn't that classic terrorism? They're not fighting the Israeli government. They're fighting ordinary people.
Look, Farid, we have lived all our lives under occupation. My father lived under occupation. My daughter is living under occupation. We want a time when we, the Palestinians, will be free. Hamas was not there 30 years ago or 40 years ago. But before that, PLO was described as terrorist. Any Palestinian who struggles for his right or for freedom is described as terrorist. And the question here, do we have the right to struggle for freedom? Do we have the right to struggle for real democracy? Do we have the right to have normal democratic elections, which unfortunately Israel and the United States don't support? I think we are entitled to that. But the unfortunate thing, if we struggle in a military form, we are terrorists. If we struggle in a non-violent way, we are described as violent. If we even resist with words, we are described as provocators. If you support Palestinian and you are a foreigner, they describe you as anti-Semite. And if you are a Jewish person, and there are many of those who supports Palestinian cause, they call him self-hating Jew. This should end. It doesn't make sense. We should all have equal life. We should all have peace. We should all have justice. And we should all live in dignity. The main way to achieve that is to end occupation, end the system of apartheid that I am sure no Jewish person can be proud of. Time has come for that, and time has come for justice and freedom. If we achieve that, there will be no violence and nobody will be hurt. You know, one of the main problems that Netanyahu created, and I think this man will be definitely put in front of many inquiries about what happened in the last 2 days or 3 days. This map by itself drove everybody crazy. That meant that he and his government, with people like Smotrich, who doesn't hide away calling himself a fascist homophobe, they say that we should fill the West Bank with settlers and settlements so that Palestinians would lose all hopes of a state of their own.
Okay.
And then they will have one of three choices, either to immigrate or accept a life of subjugation to the Israelis or die. Such statement by the second most important minister in the Israeli government does not lead to peace,